right, and to see the face behind all of the teaching as much as possible, right? I have a YouTube channel, right, where I talk more about React, Next.js. I build tools live, I build things live, right? So you can always check the channel for past recordings or live stream sessions that I have done. I am streaming right now to LinkedIn and stream I think Twitch, right? These are the platforms that I try to stream to as well. So please, you can do well to tell somebody who wants to learn about web development and about JavaScript about the things I am trying to do here. So let's get right into business today. Nifemi, I hope you're doing fine. Thanks for joining the stream. So classes, what is classes? And how do we like get the best use of classes in JavaScript, right? um Honestly, if you have been following the stream, you know that we have been doing some basic JavaScript for a while now, right? And you would know that I've talked about JavaScript at some point. I've talked about JavaScript classes at some point using the idea of constructor functions. I think in the last video, right, we talked about classes. When we talked about constructor functions, I declared a class declaration, right, just as an example of what we are able to do within JavaScript, not TypeScript, right? So I can right click here and then we can do classes. So this is VS Code, right? For those who don't know VS Code, and the class declaration starts with the class keyword, and the class expects a name, right? We can give it a person, right? And then we can have something like this, and we are able to. So this is the first skeletal structure of classes. So the class keyword, the name, and the curly braces that declares the opening and the end of what classes are, right? And also we are also able to what we are also able to then put some things inside of the class. Now, the first side of things that we'll talk about inside of the class is what we refer to as what constructor function. That is what declaring a function, and it is a constructor. That is the function that really determines or constructs to set things rolling in our classes. So we have the constructor keyword, right? And then you open what the parameter parentheses of a function, right? That is, it can accept parameters here. And in this place, we can always use the name and the age, right? Which is something that every person should have. And then we have our curly brackets here. And inside of, because this is just like a function here, just a function, right here. And then we can say what will be the body of the function. And we can see that maybe let's not go down too much into this approach here. I could just declare this class here and say name is equals to what? Let's say my name is what? Luashitimi, right? This is my name here, right? So what does this mean? And how do we eventually even use this class? Then we can right, declare a variable and declare this here. And we can then console.log person.name, and we expect it to be what this. So this is just the basic skeletal structure. But here we are declaring this name inside of this place to have this fixed value of Luashitimi. And then we're using the new keyword to construct the whole person, right? You can see that that's the new thing, the way to use this class here, right? And you pass it this parentheses here to construct a new class, and we expect this person to be created for us, and it will be an object that would obviously have this name inside. And we can also add what functions or methods, right? We call it functions or method, and we can say that what we would have a method that does what? Greeting. Maybe let's say greeting. That is, we want to have a function called greet, right? And this will just greet people and tell us what console.log, right? We can say what good morning, right? And that is what we have for a method. And let's see, how do we run this code now? What are the ways to run this code? Now, the first way to run this code is with something called Coca, right? Coca allow us to run JavaScript. So I can search for, it's a VS Code extension that you can have installed on your computer, and you can use that. So we can search for Coca, right? It's a VS Code extension that you can bring into your computer and you can install, right? Or we can just save this file and use Node.js to run this application. Okay, that's another approach. One of the ways to use Coca to run is what you can start with a command to start Coca on this current file. I think that it has some performance, implication on this computer as well. So, but I hope that the experience will still be good. So what Coca does is that Coca enables us to be able to what to run what our code and see the live inscriptions of the result of the code that we're trying to write. So immediately we constructed this class and we console.log what. So let's assume we console.log what person first. We would notice that what we have an object constructed right there for us to use. We have an object constructed down there for us to use, and inside that object we have what a dot name, right, which describes the default name that we have declared here. And we could also say that what there must be a method called what greet, right, which should be a function that we can call. And anytime you call the function, it will log out what the particular operation that a function has. And that is the major way for us to get into what classes are. So that is there. Now, another interesting thing with what classes is that what there is a something called constructors inside of what inside of classes. That is, a constructor is the first function that will run inside of our class, right? And we can use this, right? Or you can say this dot a particular thing. See the this as what a variable that is created as what you can see the this. Just assume that you're creating a object called what that is equals to what this, and then you can then set a name property inside of that this and set the name to a particular name right here. And we can also still have what our what greet function then to what to return this name here right here. So again, we can construct this. You can see that this happens, right? And the person dot greet displays the Oluwashitemi. Oh, we can make this powerful more using the power of JavaScript, right? Fully leveraging the power of JavaScript. And we can see that what this is possible. And we can say this dot name. So this dot name. So for us to use these dollar curly braces here, this dollar and curly braces, which refers to interpolation, right? You can see now that we are able to print out what Oluwashitemi. And we can now write some string and say Oluwashitemi what is my name. And that is what us using the function, the greet function, to be able to what do something right here. And the interesting thing is the greet function can also accept what can accept some parameters. So let's say we want to accept what maybe greetings, maybe message. We can accept a message. So we can accept a message just like a normal function accepts what some parameters and arguments. And we can also say that there's a message here, right? We can say message, and we can also add the message here, right? We can add the message, and we can see that message and we can say message is this, yeah, and my name is this. So this is an example of one thing that we're also able to do here. That is, we're passing something to the grid, and then we expect the return to be able to do well to return that same opportunity here. So here we can say the message here is what good afternoon, right? And if the message is good afternoon, so you can see what good afternoon Oluwashitemi is my name, and you can see that beautiful the beautiful thing that we are printing out with the help of our class. That is, you're able to print out a particular name, and that name can be passed around, and some other things can be passed around, right, within the declaration of our classes. Do we understand? Is it making sense? Please give me a minute, please. All right. Sorry. My apologies there. So that is a little introduction into what classes. Classes expose out objects that we can use. Again, if you look at this person here, person has a value inside called Oluwashitemi, which looks like an object, right? But the major thing is that the object is cut out from what? Is cut out from a particular class called what? Capital person. And that is the major thing there. So you can always see that what person instance of what the capital person, which is what the class. Again, your classes are very, very interesting and simple to use to create. So now, let's say we don't want it to be this name by default all the time. Then we want it to accept things. Then we can say it can accept a particular name of its own, and we can then say this dot name is what is equals to what name. So what this refers to now is that what inside when this is being happening, like when you pass this particular name parameter here, right, and we have what a this dot name here, whatever name that you pass across to the person will be sent down into this object, and it will build a value that will replace what is happening here. So now the interesting case here is that if I declare this case here and I say what the name is what Oluwashitemi here, you can see that that name sort of appears right inside of the class, and the name is now something programmatic that we're able to use within the class. So the constructor, like we said, is the first function that runs inside of the class, is able to accept a particular thing, and is able to send that thing that is accepting down to what every other areas of what the class. And then before we can see this greet function, right, being used, and you can see that the greet function is also using the name. So again, somebody else can come and declare another name and say, well, you want to declare another name and say what we need a name to be what Hojo, and we can see that this person is what person Hojo. And that's what the beauty of class. This now becomes what a cookie cutter that we can use to cut several cookies, right? That is you can use that person to construct several persons, right? And that is the major advantage of what the class did. Just like we are able to create arrays by what declaring arr, and you're using the square bracket to just declare, and that's an array, right? And that's the beauty. What is happening underground behind the scene is what is using the array what the array constructor to construct arrays for us. And the same thing, the person object is given to us. The person class is giving us a beautiful solution to construct objects of our own. And just like the constructor function also work, that is the same way our classes works here as well. I hope that is good for everybody. All right. And another interesting thing, just taking it a little bit further, right, with what we're able to do with classes, it can not only contain maybe the constructor, it can contain as many methods and as many parameters as possible. So you can have maybe this is what this dot what dot age, right? And say maybe my age is 99, or you pass in the age as another parameter, and you allow us to be able to what also send the age as part of what is declared. So if you look at what object will be declared again, you will see that what this person is now storing what age, and the age is undefined, right, until we're passing a particular age, right? And until we're passing a particular age. Why is the age undefined? Oh, no, 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 no. I did the wrong thing there, right? Right. Or we say what? 99. Right. And we're able to what see what is happening with our what our um our class. So you can have properties, direct properties inside of what the class is, or we can have methods inside of what our class is. And that is the first introduction that I want to talk about. Also, if you have been following, we talked about getters and setters inside of objects. And the same way we also have what the getters and setters inside of what inside of our what inside of our inside of our classes. And just like we also have function expressions, we can also have what a class expression, right? Just like the way you have function expression. What's the function expression? A function expression is just equating a function to be assigning a function to a variable. So the same way you can assign what a class expression, right, and assign a class to a variable, right, in a very easy and simple ways. So let's quickly talk about getters and setters. Again, getters and setters are very, very powerful. So it means that what we can have a function called what set, and you can say a setting name, right? And you can say this set's name, and it takes a value. Yeah, bossy, how are you? There, and we can say a get, right, which also sets this particular name here. Now you'll notice a very strange expression that we are doing, uh, which is what we are using this underscore name. Right, what does this mean when we are using our getters and setters? So let's see what happens here. So it means that we can say person ojo dot what person ojo dot name, and we can change the name of this person and say this person is now what bosse, right? And automatically after that line, if we ask for a person, you would see that what the name has changed because of the help of what our setter. And this underscore name is something we call what a private property that allows us to set, right? It knows that since there is a particular property in my constructor called name, then the underscore name is not a private one, right? That is hidden inside of what the getter and the setter, that helps us to be able to carry out the actions of setting that thing, right? So whatever value we specify will be set as the new word underscore name. And in the same way, we are also able to get, that is, you can do a person dot what. I mean, we can even run it with dot name and it will still return the same thing, or you can run it with the underscore name, it will return absolutely the same thing. So that is what getters and setters. Again, getters and setters are a common concept coming from what our ideas of what object, that is, you can get something or you can set what something. And remember, in our setter we can give a condition, that is, you can set if name is not, if value that they are sending is equals to a particular thing, it should do something else, or if it's not equal to something, it should do something else. And another interesting thing that classes can do is that what we can have computed names for classes. Computed names for classes. So just the same way we have setters here and getters, we can say that we can say that we can say name is actually equals to what something, and we can call this what the name function. So what is happening here? That is, whatever the name is, you can use it to construct a function that we can call. I think so. And I think that we should then be able to now do what? I think it should be person dot what? It should be person dot what's our name now? Can I do this? Or what can I do again with this? Person. I think this should be possible. I think so. The same person dot name is not a function. This should be possible though. I'm trying to think about this very well. Maybe something like this. I'm not sure how this works though. And we should be able to say person dot so person dot name age. Now you can see that person dot name age is pointing to a function, and if we call it now, is calling this name function here. That is, this particular square bracket here is processed at runtime, right? That is, it's combining, concatenating the name string and the age string together, and then allow us to be able to process it at runtime, right? There. So that's what we say by what it used the computed property. Don't forget that this idea of computed property is coming also from objects. That is, within object, we can use something called what? Computed properties within our what? Object. And we also have what? Class fields. That is, instead of using, I think I've talked about this earlier, that is, instead of just using the constructor to set something, what we are actually doing is what? We can see that what? We can say this, we can say name is equals to something, right? Whether it is a default value, and you can also say that age is equals to something. Now, that is a way to what? Set up our person up with what? A default value right there. And we also said that what else do we have? So here you can see that what? There is no constructor, but instantly it sets a variable called name and age to have a default set of what? Of value. So that is that with that. Any questions? Any questions? I said we're also going to talk about inheritance within what? Classes. That is, using the extend keyword, we're able to what? We're able to carry out the what? The process of called what? Inheritance in JavaScript. Please give me a sec. Hmm. Sorry. My baby wants my attention there. Dominic, long time. Good evening, Rolla. How are you? Yeah, welcome. So today we're just talking about classes. You guys met us well. Um, so here we've said like we're able to declare classes, set some default stuff inside of the class. Then we can set getters and setters inside of the class, and we're able to have what? Dynamic functions like this as well within a class as well. Now, the next thing I want to also do is what? This is just classes, right? And it's similar to something we call constructor functions as well, right? I talked about constructor functions in the last um in the last stream that I did with JavaScript, right? And classes are just syntactic sugars on top of the constructor functions, right? So behind the scene, anytime we write something that looks like a class like this, they are converted down back to constructor functions. that we're able to also use. Now let's copy this into the browser as well. I like to see this in the browser as well to also get a deeper understanding at what is going on. All right, so here is my console inside of the browser, and we're able to shrink this down, and we can paste our class there, and we can strike enter, and we can create the new copy that we said our class is like what, a cookie cutter that we use to cut out several versions of what this particular person. So I can say an example of this person is what, maybe roller now, right? And we can do what new is telling us that now we want to invoke what, that cookie cutter call person to work, and we can see a person like this. And if you look at this now, and you look at what roller will have what is a what, it's now a object that is being created for us that has what, age, and has name inside, right? And why does it have name Oluwashitemi and 30 inside? Because we're setting these default values inside. And you would see again that it is inheriting from the JavaScript prototype what, object prototype, which then inherits what, you can see that what, it has name, it has name, right? And it has name page. These are dynamic functions that are created out for us, and it has a getters and setters. And you can see that they are in turn inheriting again from another word prototype, which is now the default object prototype in itself, right? And this also then inherits from what, from the last, it doesn't inherit from anywhere anymore, but that's the last point of contact. And it has the what, the object constructor, it has the has own property, it has its prototype, it has its property enumerable, right? And the constructor, which is the object itself, can also have some other things that we've talked about recently on the stream, right? Deeper details about the object itself, right? And that is what, everything that we're able to see within our browser context, right, for classes as well. And another very interesting thing for those who are just joining that is important for us to know is that name age became a function because we dynamically combined name string and age string together, right? So the computer will construct it because it's in the array, and it will process it to process it and arrive at a single value, and that single value becomes a function that we can call within our application. So what next I want to talk about is the inheritance nature in classes with the extend keyword. And we want to say that classes can use the extend keyword to inherit from each other, right? So for example, we can have what, a class that represents maybe students now. And what that student is doing is, the student, for sure, every student is definitely going to be a person. That is, every student must first have a name. So let's turn this into, every student must have a name. So you can use the extend keyword, and you can see it extend from person. So person becomes what, the super class or the parent class. Person becomes the super class or the parent what, the parent class, while students becomes the original class now that we are declaring, that is inheriting from the parent class. Just like some of us have inherited some traits from our biological parents, the same way the subclass, which is students, can inherit from the what, the main class or the parent class, right? Yeah. So what it just means that all the things that this person can do, the student is going to be able to do it. Then it means that person can greet somebody. Can person greet somebody? No, person cannot greet. Can person get the name and setter? Person can do that. So it will also be able to do it. Can person do what? this operation. Yes, person can do that. Then it means that what the animal automatically has the ability to be able to carry out that process as well, just with the word extend keyword. And the same thing again, we can do every normal thing that we are able to do, right, with our what, our constructor. Now the new thing that we are building here, bringing here for the very first time, is super. So without this super, students will not work as we intend it to work. That is, the super is what now tells us that what we want to construct all the things that the parent is able to do. That is, super is coming from what, all the abilities of what person. So by the time you construct it, then it means that what we can then use our student to do some things. And if you look at it now, you can see that by default, student has what, Oluwashitemi and 30 inside. And student is also able to now do what, a student dot what, name age. And it sees it there as a function. And if you check the name age function, you can see that what, it logged this particular thing. And that is the just by doing this super, by calling super within the constructor. So we can then add new things. That is, a student can now have what, this dot what, id. And you can see that this is equals to what, a particular declared id. Or we can auto generate this id, right, by saying that, well, we need id here and we want to pass the id down right here. And what this signifies is that if you have what, maybe rat 0 0 1 1 2, let me remember my university matric number or student id. So you can now see that what we are doing now is that what, we are giving the student a id because it is inside of the constructor. And if we check what student is able to do, you will find our id of the student inside of the object that our what, student construct out for us. So anytime we are using extend keyword, there will always be the parent what, child relationship, and you must understand and be able to differentiate what the parent is able to do and what the child is able to what, to achieve. I don't know if that makes sense, right? With the help of what, our constructor function, we are able to what, with the help of our constructor function, right, we are able to also use students, that is the word, the subclass or the child class, right, to be able to do something, while our person still maintains the main class, that is, I am the main class, right, behavior. So that is that. Again, super is the keyword that calls out. So if you comment out super, right, you will see that word. It's telling us that what, we must call super, right, before we can do anything, so long as there is this extend keyword. It is important for us to call what, super. Yeah, what is another thing that we should talk about? Let's say there is two methods that is clashing inside of our parent class and our subclass. How do we handle such situation? If there is a what, there are what, and there are two methods. For example, inside of this word person, we have what, we have this function here. And if I copy this and put inside of this now, both of them will clash. And we can see what, inside of what, inside of the student. So how do we differentiate which particular thing, right, that we want our class to be able to what, our, especially the child class, to be able to what, do? So if we want to access the parent methods, then it means that we are now able to do what? A super as a keyword, super dot the parent method. So what am I saying? Hmm. So it means that we're now able to what? Inside of this place here, we're now able to call what? Our super dot what? Super square bracket of this, and we should be able to call this. And this way now, what we are doing is that what? This will call the what? This will call the parent what function, because there's super here. So it will call the one inside of what? The parent. Mm. Or better still, let's say inside of the parent there I have a stop. What are the operations that the student can do? Maybe print ID or print result or print name. Maybe we should call it print name. And we can say this console.log this.name. So this is print name is inside of the child, which is students, the child class. And here we can also give this what? A print name. So if we want to refer to what? The print name, that is the one for the parent. How do we know and be able to differentiate that? So what we are saying is that inside of the student class, inside of this student class here, and inside of that same function that is clashing, you can then do what is super dot what? Print name. And this way, you're first calling that of the parent. You're calling this print name of the parent. You're calling the print name of the what? Parent. And that's what we are doing there. I don't know if that makes sense. That is, anytime we are using the extend keyword, then we now have what? A parent and a child relationship. A parent and a child relationship. Now, the student is the child class, and the parent is what? The person class. Parent has some traits, and student what? Has some traits. So anytime we need to what? Call the what? The student's student details. Anytime you need to call the student details, right? All you want to do is what? You want to create its own function, or you want to create its own parameter, and that is what? The student function. But we are saying now that what? Based on the ability that the student have, that it is inheriting from person, right? Based on that behavior. But let's say we don't need the person's method for anything, like the method inside of it. So let's say we don't need it for anything. That is, the method that we always need to call is the one inside of the parent. Then how do we achieve that process? We said that what super is telling us that I need the parent features. And the moment you can say super dot a particular function inside of what? The parent, then automatically this function, when this function is being called, it is called what? Inside of what? The parent what? Inside of the parent what? Class. I don't know if that makes sense. And that is what we're trying to say, that what? Anytime there is a what? A parent and a child relationship, we are saying that what? The super keyword is very important. The super keyword is very important, and it determines what will happen. It determines what will happen in the code that we're trying to what? To write. So we are able to override a method by using what? Super dot the name of that method, right? So here, when we call what? When we, this is the students now. being created. But you can see that the student now has name, age, and ID. And then we can then call it student dot what? Student dot print name. It's a function. And if you see, you can see that what? It called this line inside of the parent first before it's called this line inside of what? The child. And that's what I'm trying to explain. And anytime there is a two function clashing inside of our class that we are using the extend keyword on, right? It is important for us to know that there is a way to call the parent, right? There's a way to call the parent or to initiate what the parent, as the case may be. And that is what overriding a method. The same thing as we are able to override the behavior of a method, we can also override the procedure of what? The procedure of properties, right? Or you can override the procedure of what? Of constructors, right? Those are nice overrides for us to have, right? Within our what? Our extend and extend keyword. That anytime there is the extend keyword, right? And the extend keyword gives us two things. It gives us one thing, a relationship. That is, it introduces a parent-child relationship. That is, now person is the parent class and student is the what? The child class. And that is the major thing that I'm trying to emphasize. Again, person is the parent class and student is the what? Is the child what? Class. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense to anybody. Hmm. Yes, I believe that makes sense. Hmm. So just see this extend keyword as a way to what? To pass whatever functionality person is doing. We are passing that power to these students, right? So just like Dominic said there, that the extend binds the new object to the prototype chain, right? So it makes sure that whatever this person is able to do, it now gives what person, it gives this student the ability to be able to carry out all the things inside of what this person. And I think we can also take this and take it inside of the browser to also see, right, what is going on inside of the browser. Do we still have the person here? Okay, we still have the person here. So if we create a new student, right, so you can see here that what we have what the student what the student detail, but you can see that the binding that happens is what it binds to the person. That is what Dominic is saying there, that it binds to the what person, such that what if student is looking for something, an operation, and it cannot find, it will check inside what person. And that is why we are saying that what there is now a two new relationship that is happening. We have the parent and the child relationship. Person is the parent and student is the what? The child. That way. So again, I've said that super keyword is what gives our what student power. That is the subclass. Now it is what what gives it so much power is what the super. That is what super does is that the calling of the super function is what enables what our what the binding to happen. That is, if there is what the extend keyword and we don't have super, then it means that there won't be the proper binding, right? But it is the work of that word super that now says, well, I need you to now go and set what the prototype of this student to be what person. Just like what the set prototype of, right, that we talked about in the last previous what episodes, right there. So if you now want to override the behavior, then you can now call what a super dot the name of that particular function, and it will only use what the super that is coming from what the parent. I think that I'm getting so tired. We can override constructors as well, right? Maybe I should just talk about that. Overriding constructors, right, with the super keyword, which is what we did here, right? And what overriding a particular method, which is what we did here as well. And the major thing that is causing that behavior to happen is what? Because of the prototype binding that is happening behind the scene. That is the binding of the object to the prototype chain. That's what Dominic talked about earlier. And that is all that I'm going to be able to take today because I'm very tired already. It's been a long day. Right, I wish to talk more about classes in JavaScript, but just the key takeaway that I like you to take away from the whole thing that I've talked about is today is that classes can be very powerful, and you can use a class to what as what a cookie cutter to cut out different objects in JavaScript, right? So here in this example now, the class, right, is serving as a way to what? To say, give me multiple copies of person. Like we're able to use the class to create multiple copies of person. And that's what the class is what the class is able to do. And I said that behavior is similar to what we have with what constructor function. So you can set a property inside of the class, or you can set a method inside of the class as well. And also we came to a point where we talked about the inheritance nature within classes with the extend keyword, right? The extend keyword helps us to come up with what a mutual what relationship, like a mutual agreement, right? That okay, I am the parent class and you will always be what subclass for the child class. That is, anytime I am instantiated, me, student, the child class, you, the person, can pass some of your abilities to me. You will give me some of your abilities, and me, the student, I will be able to have some of your superpowers. And that is what the major thing that what extend or the inheritance nature of what classes offer us. And in a way to override the behavior, we have the super keyword, right? Whether you're calling it the super keyword at the constructor level or you're calling the super keyword at the price level, the major thing what the super keyword is doing is what the super keyword is telling us what I want to call the parent. That's what I want to call. I want to call the parent details, or I want to call the parents or object. I want to call the parents parameters. That's what I'm able to what to do there, right? With the what? With the override. So you can use the override on what? A method, or you can use the override on a what? Construction or a constructor. Sorry, on a constructor right there. I mean, I think it's past 1 hour already and it is late already. I'll bring this stream to a close here. I don't know if anybody has any question. Hmm. Does anybody have any question? I'm super, super, super tired. I'm also going to be streaming tomorrow. I'm going to be streaming Next.js. I think Next.js tomorrow was supposed to be able to go down to our. We've completed the flow of our authentication for the app that we are building, and we should be able to dive into the main application, right? So to create the stores, financings, and payment gateways and all of that, whether with Stripe or whatever that we want to use. But yeah, I also plan to do the Google Hot. Thank you for reminding me. I plan to do the Google Hot and the GitHub Hot, right, with Hot.js, right, tomorrow as well. So please, can I run and go and rest so that we can prepare for tomorrow? And I will be back. Thank you for joining today's live stream. It was more just focused on classes, right? The goal was focused on classes. Right there. Thank you for joining, and do have a wonderful night to rest.